Good morning, Bucknutters. Little technical difficulties there. Let's do it again. All right, we have some technical difficulties on one of our platforms, but not this one. If you're watching, good morning, Bucknutters. Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Wait. All right. Sorry about that. Great show for you today. Of course, got the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter here, because that's what they do. We're going to go over all the camp stuff, all the good stuff from camp, and there's a lot. Offers aplenty have gone out. There was a camp yesterday with a quarterback you're going to want to know about. There's a camp today, team camp yesterday was team camp. And there's camps today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. And the Dean is here to let you know about it. But first, I got to let you know about Factor Meals. Those of you watching live can see it on the scroll. Summer's here, more sun, more light, unless you're living in the Gem City when it never shines. More time to do all the things that make summer so special. Number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer is spending hours cooking inside, and that's where Factor comes in. Chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. Those of you trying to get your bikini bod in effect, they've got Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. You can power your day sun up to sundown. They've got breakfast, lunch, premium dinners, guilt-free snacks, and desserts. I use this product, and you should too. Get started at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off and use code Bucknuts50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code Bucknuts50 off at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. All righty then. Two guys that definitely don't come for free. The Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. This is one of those shows where it's going to let the Dean cook. Mark and I are going to be here as second and third options. Bill will take up, I think, legally mandated no more than 29% of our overall salary cap. But he will be answering most of the questions today because he is the Dean. And we're really kind of breaking down what's gone on at Ohio State. It is intense visit season. We've been chronicling this for this month. Bill, here's how we're going to do today. We're going to look back at the weekend and all that went down. We're going to look back at yesterday briefly, and then we're going to pitch it ahead to talk about who will be here tomorrow and the rest of the week. But you were not taking the weekend. Father's Day, Schmother's Day in the Kurelic household. This dude is working hard every year at this time. Ohio State want to plan their events to distract Bill from major holidays. So, Bill, when you look back at this weekend, you only wrote, I think, under 37 stories. Which ones jump out to you? Who should we know about? Who was offered? Who moved the needle for the Dean?
Well, it was a busy Father's Day for sure. Not necessarily being a father, but being a recruiting guy. It was an important Ohio State visit weekend, and that's why I spent a lot of the day, most of the day, working. We actually celebrated our Father's Day here on Saturday, believe it or not, with a lot of grandkids. But
you didn't add any since we last met, have you?
What's that?
You haven't added another grandchild since we last chatted, have you?
Still sitting at 7, and none on the horizon plan or whatever that I know of at this point.
I want to make an announcement. My niece, Jackie, had her first child yesterday. Garrett James Polikoff. Don't blame her for the last name. She's an Ohio State graduate, married her high school sweetheart who went to Michigan. So we've already loaded up on baby gear, and this kid will be brainwashed and be a Bucknut. But congratulations to my niece and the whole family. Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
Well, as far as the weekend, I did have a mention or an item or a full interview with every kid that visited, made an official visit to Ohio State this past weekend. I had that by late Sunday afternoon on our site. So you can go back and look at those. Again, there was either a full interview with every one of those kids or some mention or item in my column at the end of the day. So it was not unexpectedly an official visit weekend that did not result in any immediate commitments over the weekend. And again, I get back to that rarely happens these days, where a kid makes an official visit and then sometime on Sunday announces he's committed. That's kind of the old days where that happened quite often. Not so much anymore. But I do think Ohio State really either moved the needle or is in good shape with a number of the guys. 4 of the guys that made official visits were Ohio State commitments before they made their visit this past weekend. Those, of course, being the 3 offensive linemen, Sam Greer, Maxwell Riley, and Tucker Smith, and then CJ Santa, the linebacker. And they're all very solidly, zero concern
No
on the
wiggle
40
room.
foot meter. Yeah. Now, as far as the other guys, I think a couple of important stories were the Glenville guys. Sincere Johnson, he will announce his decision on Thursday at Cleveland Glenville High School at 12 noon. I've had him crystal ball to Ohio State for quite some time, and I haven't flipped that pick. And then the other one is his teammate, defensive lineman Jameer Perez, who has been committed to Florida since he made an official visit there. And I feel like Ohio State did move the needle with him. So those were significant stories. And then I think the other significant story is that of the other guys that visited, there isn't a single one of them that I don't think Ohio State could legitimately end up signing. I know they moved the needle some with Carter Meadows, who going into the official visit, I didn't necessarily have Ohio State as the strongest contender for him, but they are a contender now. The visit went well, and Danny Odom, the cornerback, had a great time. Pierre P.J. Dean, him and his mom have long liked Ohio State, almost since to get that offer. His decision is still down to 3 schools: Ohio State, Georgia, and South Carolina. And I think the significant thing there is, he's at one point he was talking about making his announcement shortly after this last official visit. He's all done with his official visits now. He's visited all 3. Now he's looking to wait most likely until early to late July. So I think he just wants some time to think about things. But I think Ohio State is still right there in contention. So I think those are some of the, more significant stories. Jackson Ford, by the way, had a really good visit. He's a defensive end, edge guy, linebacker out of Malvern Prep in Pennsylvania. So all in all, I think it's an official visit weekend that's going to play dividends at some point here. Hopefully as soon as Thursday, when Sincere Johnson announces his decision.
I went back and looked at Carter Meadows because he went to Gonzaga goes to Gonzaga in the DC area. And I watched him play some hoops. This is a guy who's, I don't know if he could play basketball at Ohio State, but this is a long, athletic, rangy guy who's got a lot of space to fill out on Bell prospect-wise. There aren't many guys with that body who can move like that, which is awesome. Mark, what jumps out to you from that group? Obviously, the Glenville guys. J.J. Perez is going to be a topic of discussion until he, ink hits paper. Are you feeling pretty good about Sincere Johnson, the vibe among your Ohio cognoscenti?
Yeah, going back to the Glenville showcase, I think Sincere Johnson is a pretty good bet for Ohio State. That was always been the word, but these kids at Glenville, they have a protocol that they go out and they take their visits and they educate themselves. Like Coach Ginn is real big on letting these kids experience the process a little bit. They don't get out of the city as much as, maybe some other kids, just case by case there. But in general, he wants those kids to get out and see things and make sure that when they make their decision, what else was out there. You weren't an Ohio State homer. We would like them to be Ohio State homers And they are, they do pipeline their guys to Ohio State. So feel very confident about Sincere. If you remember, Jameer Perez was a Lutheran West player, and he just came over to Glenville last year. So he's new to that, thinking or whatever. And of course, he committed to Florida, and we hope that he, sees things with the Buckeye colored sunglasses when he goes there, and he changes his opinion. And I think Bill used the right word. They moved the meter this weekend. I saw some of the Glenville coaches at Pitt on Sunday, and that was kind of the word there, that a great visit. And, Ohio State is still in this, even though he's already committed. That committed thing, commitment doesn't mean the same thing it used to mean a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of kids committed, even some of these young kids, these 2028s. Boy, I mean, you're going to commit now, and that saga is going to go on for 3 years of, are you locked in? Like Bill said, some of these guys are locked in, the Santas and the Maxwell Rileys. Like, there's no wiggle room. They're Buckeyes, Some of these other commitments are just, okay, maybe not. And I feel like we're in that world right now where you don't know how to seriously to take some of these kids, especially when they're out of state. The Glenville kids, we kind of know the protocol there.
Glenville, kind of like Wayne, does this as well. They'll bring the whole crew to workouts. The Dayton Daily News did a story about the workout they did for the Miami Valley kids, where they send Jameer Brown there, knowing none of the schools there really got a shot at him. But they want to see him, so they see the other dudes. And Glenville the same way. There's plenty of guys at Glenville and Wayne who just need a little eyeball action and then can blossom into
the underclassmen at Glenville are starting to blow up. Lemon and Whitner and some of these younger players are all starting.
Heard those names before.
Yeah, they're starting to take in some big time offers. A couple of them picked up Pitt over the weekend. And to your point, Sincere wasn't there, Perez wasn't there, but there are so many kids on that bus, and the bus is parked right out in front of the pit. When you pull up, you're like, oh, there's the Glenville bus. Yeah, you kind of know that that's how they roll. And they garner a lot of respect from these college programs. When they show up, they don't walk around camps. Some of these guys get golf carted around camps when you're a Glenville coach. They get the access everybody else does, and rightfully so.
Dan, I might want to add too, going back to PJ Pierre Dean, somebody posted about him announcing on his birthday, end of June. And that was the original thinking that he told me. I'm not going to rule that out, but talking to someone close to him on Sunday after the visit, they said, that's not totally ruled out. It's just more likely that, at least right now, that he's going to wait to decide or to announce till early to late July. So we'll see what happens there.
Bill, yesterday wasn't as hot and heavy at the campus, but we're going to talk about it. Really the only guy that jumped out, and he would have jumped out had he just been a meager football player. This is the name of all time. I think this family has taken the name game to another level. I will say Bo Jackson's name being Lamar Jackson, going to be hard to beat long term, but our newest contender, Wonderful Monds the Fourth, I might add, nickname or middle name, Champ. So they didn't want to mess around. You're going to call him Wonderful or Champ. Pat Murphy has a great story up about it. Quarterbacks, I don't understand quarterback recruiting anymore, Bill. I'll be the first one to tell you. There used to be a time when you could only offer this many guys, and there was a diva factor, and now it just seems like offer as many dudes as you can, get as many quarterbacks as you can, and who sticks. Tell us about Wonderful Monds. I believe you are close enough to call him Champ.
Well, I agree with you, Dan. Whether you go by Wonderful or whether you go by Champ, either way, that's pretty good. And he was at Ohio State yesterday. He has had, and I should mention, he's a 2028 quarterback. I'm not sure we mentioned that yet. He's a 2028 quarterback, and he has had an Ohio State scholarship offer for quite some time. I think, without looking, I think maybe back in January, Ohio State offered him. But he's a good one. He's 6'2". 225. He is out of Vero Beach High School, Vero Beach, Florida. And again, he quarterbacked the house team yesterday at camp. And again, you mentioned Pat Murphy has a whole
Bill,
complete individual.
explain what a
storyline.
house team is. Time out. Can you? We've used the term house team now, and we're going to use it again with Teddy Gerard coming up. Can you explain to the people what a house team is in a camp? So be helpful.
Yeah, that's these camps have teams from different high schools, mostly Ohio high schools, but there are some out-of-state teams too. They come from, like I said, all over the country. But they also, at their camps, usually have a house team. That is a team of kind of individuals that happen to be at Ohio State or have been invited to Ohio State for that day. Ohio State puts together a house team, Wonderful Monds, and the rest of his team were guys that were put together not from one single high school, but from many high schools. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, is the last Ohio State camp of the summer. It is, again, a team camp, and it'll be a big one. The house team is going to feature Teddy Gerard. He is a 2027 quarterback from Georgia who I really like. If they could get him to join Brady Edmonds as two quarterbacks in the 2027 class, well, we better call Dwayne back for his jaunt if they can somehow get that to work out. I think I really like Teddy Gerard a lot. He did confirm to me yesterday. I had a story, about when they offered him in mid-May that he was going to be the house team quarterback on June 18th. And I wanted to check, talked to Teddy again yesterday, and it is still happening. He said he will be the house team quarterback tomorrow at Ohio State.
All right, great. Wonderful Monds. We're going to take a look at him right now, thanks to Mark, and then we're going to read our next ad. Mark, take it away.
Did you say he's now 225, Bill? Holy smokes. I mean, it listed him at 200 when this video was made, which was probably back in September or October.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that stands out, he's an unbelievable athlete. That first throw, he's showing off the arm strength, but look how calm he is in the pocket. His feet just relax. There's a play coming up here where he's standing there and the line is right in front of him, and he just seems unfazed. And for being a kid this young, and this running ability is pretty special. It's hard to believe. Hard to believe he's a freshman or a 2028 kid. But the poise, he's really showing a lot of, there. Look how calm that is.
He is.
Relaxed and just like chill. Like, okay, I'm just
going to. Like a drill.
Yeah. I mean, it's
a
like
dance drill, when the quarterback, front, back, release, go to the back of the line.
So that's abnormal for seniors. No happy feet. I mean, obviously he believes in his offensive line or whatever, but he's checking boxes, arm strength. You see the feet, throwing on the run, making decisions. Look at the throw back across the body right on the dot. We've talked before. We don't like having to offer 2028 kids, but I don't see a 2028 kid on this film. I see a kid that looks like he's a senior, and that's usually what propels the younger kids into the offers is when they don't look like they're young kids.
When people get offered, where they visit, how they commit, all the rules, who visits last, who visits first, those rules are done to me. Ty Snell is 2029. He came up here and got an offer, and there were some people who were ready to switch their religion to Snellism afterwards. So we're done. Also, I think with quarterbacks, and Mark, you guys can, I'm going to read the ad after this and you guys can maybe discuss it, but they are so much more prepared now, just as opposed to back in the day. There are kids getting schooled from very young ages their parents probably wouldn't want to release. So these guys, like Wonderful Monds, has had, it looks like, years of training and years of, there is no way, I don't care what anyone tells me, you can look like that just stepping on a football field.
No,
there's a certain calm that comes with knowledge and experience that I don't care how talented you are, that can't be acquired through anything but hard work and, training. So we will talk about that in one sec. I've got to tell you about Cornbread hemp. After training, don't do this before training, but after training, if you're an adult, I want to say that again, Cornbread hemp is your way to enjoy a healthier happy hour. This is America's first ever USDA organic TCH. You wouldn't buy it if it's TCH. THC gummy. I don't even know what TCH is. The mission at Cornbread: improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. Only 10 milligrams per gummy, just the right dose. No harsh solvents, petrochemicals, or industrial acids. No synthetic ingredients. Farm Bill compliant and legal for adults over 21 or 21 and over. You don't have to be 22. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy it, you got to give them a try. Like I said, 100% legal. And right now, Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts and use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. 30% off. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. All right, Mark, did you want to comment on quarterbacks in general? That seems to be your wheelhouse, given you may know a quarterback that has attended camps recently that may or may not have ridden with you home.
Yeah, this could be a big digression, but I've been watching for 20 years now the quarterback trainers in Ohio. Brad Melander up in Cleveland or Mandler, and Jim Ballard down in Canton, and there's guys in all the different places in Columbus, whatever. And I would watch them turn a JV quarterback into a starter into an all-league guy, an all-league guy maybe into a college player. And if you had talent, they would definitely bring it out in you. And once God cursed me with a quarterback and not just a normal football player, it was, hey, right to those type of guys. And let's see if you can make this happen with someone who has been stunted by my genes. If you can overcome my genes, then you're going to be okay. So watching these guys and the polish that they will put on kids, and you said it, the calmness in their footwork and where they're supposed to be. There's a clock system, and if you can imagine a clock on the floor and 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, every throw has a different dial. Like if you're throwing to the left, you're probably throwing at 10 o'clock or 10:30, and if you're throwing a hitch, it's at 11, and if you're throwing this, it's at 9 o'clock. So when kids understand that type of footwork and that type of calmness, where they're just going through their daily routine of taking their steps and getting into their clock and getting their footwork right. And that's what it looks like on film, where this kid's shoulders are set up. His timing of the way he fires his hips is in relation to the way his arm goes. The hips are going, then the arm goes after it. That's how you get the most whip. And all these little things that, sound really geeky, and I'm, diving into a rabbit hole here. You just saw him on film from a kid who's 15 years old. And I think it's a hats off to all the trainers across the country, all the reps these kids are getting. Every Sunday, my son's at something. He was at a trainer last week. He did workouts with his team, workouts on the road. I mean, some of these quarterbacks are throwing 5 or 6 days a week. And like you said, Dan, some of us are embarrassed to admit how early our kids starting doing this. But I have to say, if you remember Marinovich from back in the day, his dad was the Oakland Raiders strength coach. And Marv Marinovich, he was kind of looked down upon because this kid wasn't allowed to eat McDonald's. And at 12 years old, he had a trainer and he was already lifting. And back then it just seemed like culture shock, where Marv Marinovich is us now. He's all of us. He's me. He's all the dads that do this. We all want our kids speed trained early and lifting earlier and taking the protein shakes. And you can't walk out of a weight room anymore. And these things are all normalized, where 30 years this guy was crucified. So to your point, what we just watched on film was, let's thank Marv Marinovich 35 years ago for kicking off this trend of earlier training. And we're seeing a better football product because of it. I think that's a nice way to put a hat on that.
Maybe we've done this now without the mental challenge that Marv provided for Todd Marinovich. I also met a girl in a bar once who said that Todd Marinovich loved Big Macs, and that was all a load. But who knows?
So,
believe it or not, some girls will tell you stuff in a bar that's not true. Go ahead, Mark.
Short digression. I thought it would be good that as I was taking my kid to one of his many training sessions, I said to my son, listen, I don't want you to turn into Todd Marinovich, and I know you don't know who that is, but here's a 30-minute documentary. Just watch it in the back and see what happened to him. When it got to the point that Marinovich was pooping his pants during an Arena League football game where he threw 7 touchdowns because he was coming off of heroin, I was like, turn it off. Turn it off. It's enough.
Yeah.
we don't need the second half of this thing here that happened. But my point was, if there's ever training that's too much, just say it, and we'll go swimming that day, or we'll go play video games, because there's another kid that was put through this type of regimen that it was a bad reaction. But if you get a chance to watch the Marinovich documentary, it gets plenty interesting.
Oh yeah. And
then his family snuck him to McDonald's to get Big Macs behind his father's back, was the story that was told there. It was his grandma or something, that every time he came to our house, we had all the food waiting for him, and it was our little secret. So there you go.
Look, dude, you cannot be trying to keep Big Macs from younger kids. They're delicious. Now, when you get to be my age, you eat a Big Mac, and it goes right to your gullet. I'll tell you who's never had a Big Mac, the Dean. Is that true, Bill? Have you ever had a Big Mac?
Only a totally plain one.
You guys think I'm kidding? Bill comes into McDonald's, and people are like, "Oh, here comes the special order guy." I'm taking the person at the front takes their break right when Bill walks in. But we digress. All right, Bill. Who's going to be? I'm going to answer all of them. We're going to rapid fire through the questions everyone's asked and the names. But let us get the hardcore info out here. Who is coming today, Bill? Who do we need to be knowing about, up through Thursday when we will all meet again?
Oh, wow. Today's going to be a really, really good camp at Ohio State. A bunch of offer guys guys Ohio State has already offered, and a number of guys that they certainly could offer. So I kind of hit on some of the high points, so to speak, without naming all of them, because we would easily finish off the show with that. Neiman Lawrence is supposed to be there. He is a quarterback out of Florida that Ohio State offered early, 2028. And his pretty good friend from Florida, Eric McFarland, wide receiver, 2028 from IMG. Wide receiver Peter Pierre is supposed to be there. In fact, I know he'll be there because he told me. I don't know, something happened in the last 10 hours. Ohio State has offered him out of the class of 2028. A wide receiver, Ohio State, I wouldn't be surprised if they offered today. Keeson Bowman, 2027, moved to the offensive line. Cameron Wagner confirmed yesterday with me. Ohio State has offered him a big offensive tackle that is going to be at Ohio State today. And Sean Tatum out of Florida, 2027, another 2027 offensive lineman. Flipping to the defensive side of the ball, arguably as good a linebacker as there is in the country, class of 2027. Caden Henderson out of Florida is going to work out today. And Judah Blair, he is certainly an offer candidate. He is from Lakota West. Mark has talked about him previously. He is going to be at Ohio State today. Wouldn't be a shock if Ohio State offered him.
Bill, I'm gonna offer him right now. So just offer him.
We'll get to Blair. We'll get to Blair.
And then a couple more. Let's go back to a couple more potential offer guys. Malachi Tufu, a 2027 safety from California, and Braylon Hollywood Kalis. He is a athlete running back 2027. Those are a couple more guys that I've got on my radar screen for potential offers today.
Interesting.
And again, that's not the whole list. That's just some of the highlight guys.
Sure. We know the whole list because that's who Bill will have stories on, as he mentioned, comprehensive dean. You don't want to mess with the dean when it comes to that. Important to note here. Here's what I find interesting about Neiman Lawrence, quarterback at Miami Northwestern High School. Miami Northwestern High School is coached by Miami Northwestern graduate Teddy Bridgewater. So very cool kind of connection there. You started to hear the name Whitner. These guys we're getting old. So you're going to start seeing guys you covered or guys that were on your fantasy team have kids playing. Will you ever have a kid on your fantasy team who you also had his dad? Pretty sure you shouldn't draft him because you're going to be too old. All right. We're going to hit a bunch of questions here. And here's why Judah Blair is interesting. And Bill, just because you're the dean, you fit that perfectly into my question. Judah Blair is finishing up his freshman year at Lakota West. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. He's a linebacker who runs the 100 with extreme speed. If you're a linebacker as a freshman and you finish high in the regions, you can fly. In the class of 2028, Ohio State has 40 offers out already. One to an Ohioan, and that is Jameer Weiss, defensive end out of Trotwood. Mark, do you expect Judah Blair to get offered today? I think we already know the answer to that, given your penchant for speaking up. And should we be alarmed, concerned, or nonplussed that of the 40 guys, 40 guys they've offered, only one is from Ohio so far?
Going back a few years, talking to the Ohio State staff, they did not want to be in the business of offering 2028 kids. It's a tough, rugged business. You're not sure, you're hoping. And I broke down a film of a 2028 kid today with an Ohio State offer, and I don't see Ohio State tape yet. So a lot of times at this level, now we just watched a kid who definitely looks beyond 2028. So I'm not disagreeing.
Wonderful.
I'm not disagreeing, but I think that it's a tougher game to play projecting out that far. More can go right or wrong on you. So I think that was their general feeling. And I think Bill and I, doing this for as long as we have, we kind of understand that. This prospect from Lakota West is one of those guys. If he doesn't get an offer, I will be shocked. The way he runs, if he doesn't get an offer, I don't know what you have to do athletically to get an offer. So that's why I'm so high on him.
Mind you, he's not a defensive back.
Yeah, I mean, he's built like a linebacker, runs like a DB, plays like that already. I mean, when I watched him run around, and I've had the luxury of seeing him before everybody else, that I feel same way was Jameer Brown a year ago when it was like, yeah, wait till they see him. They're not privy to what my eyes have taken in, but when they see it today, it would be shocking if he does not come away from an offer. And like I just said, I'm not one who wants to offer 2028 kids. Some of these kids have broken the mold, and he's one of them. So very high on him. Weiss, same way, or Weiss, so however you say that. But yeah, but things can go wrong. And that's why I guess I'm tentative where if I was betting $100,000, I don't know if I would have the guts sometimes to pull the trigger on the 2028. And here's why. There's another Judah Blair out there that we don't know about right now, and he just hasn't, bursted onto the scene, so to speak, in whatever way. But in a couple of years, you may want that piece of candy more than you want Judah Blair, and you just don't know that that's coming. And I think that's the feeling I would like to not have, but I'll take Judah. I'll take him.
Buck Rational asks, is he a werewolf? Judah Blair has many lupine-like qualities. You want to talk about a guy who, you're watching football and all of a sudden you think a guy's going to go somewhere and all of a sudden some flash of light comes across the screen and decapitates the guy. As unfortunate as that may sound for the receiver, the person receiving the hit, it's a wonderful thing to watch, and hence werewolf. We're very loath to give out the werewolf distinction, though. All right. Rapid fire. The Feister brothers, Cody. You may be related to them given your desire for the answer. The Feister brothers are physical specimens at Akron-Hoban. They're running backs. They're linebackers. What are they? Mark, can you please quickly tell us who they are and what your expectations are them for? And then, Bill, you might want to chime in yourself in terms of Ohio State's possible interest.
Brayton and Bryden, Feister, I think it's Feister, both at Akron-Hoban. 2028 for the younger one, okay, and he does not have an Ohio State offer. Played a little defensive end. He was playing Mike or Will linebacker at the junior day. So these guys are Ohio State caliber type kids. Why don't they have offers? And so now I'm going to get into the picky scout brain. I'm not being critical. I'm not hating on anybody.
Right.
The young one, defensive end, he's moving the linebacker. Just give us tape of you running around very good at linebacker, and you'll be fine. We're not sure right now if a defensive end can go back there and run around as athletically as you need to be at Ohio State. Okay, so there's nothing the matter there, just waiting. The older brother, Brayton, right, Bill? Brayton?
Brayton's the older one, yep.
Yep, I don't want to get confused live.
2027.
He is the tailback that is an absolute pounder, an absolute beast. You don't want to stand in front of him. Now, that is his only skill as a tailback. He's not the fastest tailback in Ohio. He doesn't have the most jitterbug in him of all the tailbacks in Ohio. He doesn't have the breakaway speed. He doesn't have a lot of those other tailback qualities that he may need in college. He would strictly be Scattaboo type pounder, which isn't bad. You know, that would even be a compliment to his game, because Scattaboo had a little, shit to him. So I think he has now moved to linebacker, and let's just see that transition on tape, which I think that's going to go well, and you'll see an eventual Ohio State offer. But I think Ohio State may just be waiting to put the puzzle together before they fire the missile for the offers. But that was me being critical, looking for a reason, me really diving into, hey, I want to be sure, like, I've said before, but I still think they're both at the elite Power 5 schools. Their offer list says it. Ohio State just might be a little pickier with their linebackers. And are they recruiting them? Ohio State had basically their whole staff at the Hoban Showcase. Coach Laurinaitis was there watching those guys closely, so them working out at linebacker. Yeah. And I'm sure they had a busy schedule. I know once you get that big time, it's fun to take those national camp trips out west and other places. So yeah, I wouldn't take any offense to it.
They've already got Eli Lee in the class, of course. Now the Hoban middle linebacker, who those guys are probably trying to reach that mold. So there's certainly precedent here. Bill.
I can add on Brayton Feaster. I think it was Mika or somebody said, there's no mention. I guess it was Cody. There's no mention of Ohio State and all that. The Brayton Feaster has long liked Ohio State, but as Mark said, he doesn't have an Ohio State scholarship offer right now, and it's he's going to be putting tape out as a linebacker. He is moving to linebacker as his primary position this year as a junior. So he'll have tape out, and I could see him Ohio State getting an Ohio State offer then. And as far as him being interested in Ohio State, why he's not visiting there anymore, whatever, he's not doing any camps this summer. He's done with that. He's done all the camps previously. He's got closing in on 24 scholarship offers. He doesn't really necessarily need to do camps anymore just to get offered. He's not doing any camps this summer. And what he is doing for the most part at this point is visiting schools that have offered him, and Ohio State has not. And he's been to Ohio State many times already. So that's kind of what he's thinking as far as his summer goes and that type of thing. If Ohio State sees that tape and all at linebacker, I agree with Mark. Very possible that they'll get an offer, and that could change the dynamic of his whole recruitment. We'll see.
We'll keep an eye on that. Rapid fire, Bill. Offensive lineman Darius Gray.
Well, he's continuing to take official visits. I think, his last one was to LSU. He went to Ohio State before that. He has done a lot of visits. He is not done yet.
He's all over, Bill.
What's that?
He's all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world tour, so to speak. Yeah. If you ask me right now, I would take the field against Ohio State. But as we know, Dan, you've mentioned it, all the old barometers and all, they're kind of long gone. I'll give you an example. There was one young man that made an official visit to Ohio State already, and the meter was looking up as he has subsequently made official visits elsewhere. The package list has moved up. He has got better and better offers. Can Ohio State come back and change what their package is? Sure. But as kids go on visits and sometimes they get offered more and more and more, that changes the dynamic of things.
The operative word there being more. Go ahead.
Yeah, Darius Gray, I would, as of right now, I would take the field versus Ohio State for Darius Gray.
All right, rapid fire again. We both know this guy, and so does Mark. Luke Waffle.
Yeah, Luke Waffle made his official visit to Ohio State May 30th, and I really felt at that time he would come down to either Ohio State or Penn State, who he then visited the weekend of June 6th. But now, again, he's continuing to take visits, and he's got a pretty big one yet to go. He has already done USC now, and he's got Texas this coming weekend. And we all know Texas has the wherewithal. They're spending money. They have spent money, and we'll see what happens with Luke Waffle.
If I was going to start a recruiting podcast right now, I would call it "But Now ... and just basically have your name and a number next to it. But I'm kidding. All right, Trey Towns. Who is he? Why do we need to know?
Trey Towns. Well, that's a kid that, gosh, how should I put it? He's gotten a lot of attention. He is an Oak Christian quarterback from Westlake Village, California. He's about 6'3", 205 pounds. He is a 2028 kid. So Trey Towns has got a ways to go. He does have an Ohio State scholarship offer. A 2028 quarterback, it's pretty hard to say right now who necessarily has the edge for a 2028 quarterback. I mean, they've got offers out to, as we've talked about, the two kids we've talked about already. Neiman, who is at Ohio State today, and then yesterday you had Wonderful Monds. Previous to that, there was Derek Baker. It's pretty. Ohio State continues to look at their quarterbacks for the future. Let's just put it that way.
An interesting point is Rain St. Clair, class of 2028, was at the camp the other day.
Yep.
And, looks great and everything. It's too soon to do anything crazy, but there are people who think Rain's ahead of Tavian at this point.
They definitely think that.
Yeah, maybe because, Tavian's getting all the training and he's tagging along now, where Tavian was baseball. I remember Tavian having his first offer at Toledo and being a baseball player. And who is this St. Clair kid? And there was nothing big time about him this young. So to our point about these young offers, don't worry. There's other kids coming, and they could be related to guys on the team already. So, and Rain St. Clair went largely overlooked as you're talking about all these 2028 kids with offers. That's the same way Tavian St. Clair was at this time, overlooked. It wasn't until later on that, he really became a national power. And then all of a sudden he's the number one quarterback in the country. It didn't start freshman year.
And by the way, I should mention that I threw Derek Baker in there because he was at Ohio State's camp last week, and Ohio State had already offered him. He's a 2027 kid, by the way. So I was kind of going over a lot of their offers and put Derek Baker in there. I don't want to confuse anybody because I mentioned him with the 2028 kids. Baker is a 2027 quarterback.
All right, Bill, real quickly, we're done. What are we going to see today out of Ohio State? Just a quick reminder.
Well, I think you're going to see some really outstanding players that have already been offered by Ohio State. And I think you're going to see some really good players that are coming to Ohio State today, or in some cases, I'm sure they're already. That's why I like to leave early. Some of them will be getting loose within the next hour or so before camp for their before camp activity workouts and so on. I think you're going to see a bunch of new offers. And I mentioned a number of those kids that are possible. And like I said, there are other ones too that are very realistic possibilities to get offers today. I think it's going to be a great day for camp. We're going to cover it. Myself and Steve Hellwagen and Pat Murphy, who's done a great job. We'll all be there today. And I think it's going to be a talent-packed Ohio State camp today.
A little more than yesterday, too. If you look at the guest list, it's really impressive. Last question, I lied. Cam Sapria asked us earlier, and I did not get to it. Our legal obligation to address Savion Hyder's recruitment, Bill. I want to keep you out of the clink.
And what would a podcast be without Savion? And again, I'm going to say what I said before. Nothing has happened to change my mind that if I was going to – I don't think anybody knows for sure what Savion's going to do. If they say they do, I think they're kind of pulling the wool over your eyes. But I would go with, if I had to pick right now, the Field versus Ohio State. He's got one big visit to go. That's Tennessee this weekend. And again, Tennessee can wow a kid, and they can put out a great offer. We know that with David Sanders. So he visited Michigan last weekend. Before that, he was at Ohio State in Georgia. And I would not necessarily say any of the 4 schools is totally out of it, but I would go with the field versus Ohio State as things stand right now.
It's funny, there used to be differing opinions on who during a recruitment you wanted to get in with. The mom, the dad, the high school coach, the select coach, and now it's the accountant. You want to get in with his accountant. You can get aligned to his accountant, you will be able to trump the dean, maybe even on decision making and scoops. However, we don't think you'll be able to do that, so you need to rely on the dean for all that coverage, and the grand poobah, Mark Porter. Bill and Mark are the best at what they do. We'll be back on Thursday to wrap up what happens today, tomorrow, and whatever else. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good one. No